Hi there, this is Dr. Anna Maria Heltz, a herbalist and microbiologist here with basmati.com. And this week we're going to dive into fenugreek, which is a really delicious flavoring. Uh, it's the seed primarily that's used medicinally, and so it's used in multiple parts of the world for its taste, but it has a lot of great medicinal benefits. And so this has actually become one of my favorite herbs to use for my clients dealing with hot flashes. And in fact, the research supports this as well. And so there's a study showing that the fenugreek seed with the hull stripped off of it, or the husk stripped off of it, helped with various symptoms around menopause, including hot flashes. And another study that actually looked, interestingly enough, at the actual husk or hull that normally surrounds the seed, but they didn't actually use the seed. And even the husks themselves were able to help with hot flashes and other menopausal issues. And, it was only one study each, but what was kind of cool is that the seed did not cause an increase in estrogen, and specifically estradiol, in the women that took it. The seed husk actually did increase estrogen levels over time. So that was kind of interesting. And again, it's the seed itself that I use in my practice. And even though the research, at least that one study, did not show a rise in estrogen, it is very effective. And I actually take it myself as a 47-year-old, and I find it really helpful for hot flashy type stuff. And it also tastes great, so it's a wonderful addition to an herb formula simply to make it taste good. I've also used it in my practice for support in women dealing with PCOS, and this is because of the traditional use that fenugreek has for helping to support healthy blood sugar regulation. And again, there's research backing this up as well in terms of fenugreek's effects on helping with that. And so that's another one of the more frequent uses in my own little practice here in Durango. Now, another great use for fenugreek that I actually learned from a friend slash client a number of years ago is for cold and flu. And it's actually a pretty well-known use. I just didn't know about it. And so this is yet another traditional use of fenugreek seed in cold and flu formulas. And so for that, or any of the uses that I've already mentioned, it's great as a tea. Again, it tastes really good. It actually smells kind of like maple syrup. It has a really pleasant, sweet smell to it. So it works fine as a tea. You wouldn't just steep it like a tea bag in hot water. If you want to make a really good medicinal tea of fenugreek, you're going to make what's known as a decoction. And if you want to get into different tea making techniques, go to basmati.com and look up my article on tea making. So just search for my last name, Helt as in Tom, and you'll find different ways to handle different herbs when it comes to tea making. So for fenugreek, you want to make what's known as a decoction. And what that simply means is that you are adding the fenugreek seed to water in a pot. You're going to bring that water to a boil and then turn down the heat so that it's just simmering. And you can simmer it for maybe 5 minutes or so, just on a very low simmer, and then turn the heat off. And you can actually let it steep for another 5, 10, 15 minutes to overnight, as long as you want, really. And it'll make a very strong decoction. Now, the proportion of herb that is typically used by an herbalist when making various kinds of teas, decoction and otherwise, is 1 teaspoon of your dried herb, or a tablespoon or so of fresh, per 8 ounces of water, so per half cup of water. And so for fenugreek and other herbs, you're often going to be drinking a few cups a day, maybe for several days, depending on what's going on. So you can actually make a whole bunch of tea at once and just scale up. So if you're going to make a quart, which is, oh gosh, let me do some math, 8 times 4, so that's 2 cups, 16 ounces times 2, or 8 ounces times 4, so 2 cups of water in a quart. And is that right? No, 2 pints. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. 8 ounces is a cup, not a half a cup. And so 32 ounces would be 8 ounces times 4. This is why I'm an herbalist and a biologist and not a mathematician. So every 8 ounces is 1 teaspoon of herb. So every cup is a teaspoon of herb. So that would be 4 teaspoons to make a quart of your decoction. And you can strain that and store it in the fridge. God, this is embarrassing. And store that in the fridge for up to a few days, and you can reheat it 1 cup at a time. So that's one way you can use fenugreek. It tastes good. Not every herb really lends itself to a tasty tea. I frequently use it as a liquid extract instead, so the little brown squirt bottles, because that's what I find people are often more compliant with taking. Either way is going to taste pretty good, and it can be a simple way to get this herb in. You can use it by itself. I often will blend it with other herbs depending on what's going on, but it's a great one to get to know. It also has beneficial effects on blood lipids as well. And so this brings up a point. If you are on medication, for instance, for cholesterol or diabetes, high blood sugar, you want to talk to your doctor before you throw fenugreek in the mix. It doesn't really make sense to take an herb that does the same thing that your drugs do, unless you're working with your doctor and a trained herbalist on tapering off of a medication or what have you. You can actually get your blood sugar too low, potentially, or get your blood lipids too low by adding this herb to your medication. So don't combine. Go see an herbalist and talk to your doctor if that's something you want to get into, though, in terms of altering the dose of your meds by using an herb. And so really important general principle, taking an herb to work on the same thing that you're currently taking a medication for doesn't really